Welcome to Career Launch Live. I am your host, Katherine McCord, and I am super stoked about today's episode because we have had this issue coming up a lot lately in my company. And if you don't know me and who I am your host, Katherine McCord, as I said in the intro, and I run Titan Management, which is a recruiting and consulting firm. I also have Titan ATS, which is a bias eliminating applicant tracking system. And I am very happy to welcome my co-host today. It's been a while since I've had one of those. I have the one, the only Miss Andi Cook. How are you today?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Going crazy, very slowly.
You have a lot of really amazing things going on right now.
Thank you. It's been interesting lately. And I have so much travel. I don't have a single month without at least 2 conventions for the rest of the year.
I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yay, COVID being over.
It's so exciting. So exciting. We're seeing really amazing things in the network. We're hearing many staffing companies who are declaring that they have more job orders than what they can fulfill. The market for recruiters right now is insane. And so, absolutely.
It's awesome. It's a great time. I love it. And it's a great time for both of us. So tell us a little bit about you and what you have going on and all the awesome things that you do.
Absolutely. So I am the founder and CEO of Maximize Your Job Search. So for those who don't know me, I'm Andi Cook, also known as the Crown Straightener. That's my favorite title. And I just love it. And it just kind of became a thing when my aunt, and not everybody knows this story, but my aunt who passed away in December of COVID, then thank you so much. We were building a presentation for her services. And I came across a picture of her wearing a tiara, watching the royal wedding. I was like, this should be a thing. Like we should all do this. So, and one of my favorite memes is be the kind of woman who straightens other people's crowns and never tells anybody that it was crooked. That's like my favorite. And so
I love that.
I was like, I want to be that woman. So it just kind of became this thing of the crown straightener that stuck. And I absolutely love it. But I am a job search strategy coach. I help people kind of navigate this hiring process. And now I'm excited about this kind of branch out that I'm doing of going into colleges and universities and high schools and teaching people from the ground up how to build a strategic career path instead of being 20 years into their career going, holy crap, what do I do now?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I love that, by the way, that you're doing that. And I'm kind of in an educational phase myself, but on the other end, right? So I'm trying to teach HR and recruiters, hey guys, do it like this. Yes, please. Right. And then you're fixing the other side. So I think together,
absolutely,
we're going to make this work and make it a whole lot better. So today's topic, this is one you and I have gotten into some pretty excitable discussions about before. Yeah. And we're going to be talking about toxic workplace. Right. And what to do with people that cause them.
So here's kind of my mic drop moment of this show. When you have an employee who behaves inappropriately and you do nothing about it, you have put your stamp of approval on that behavior.
100%. I love it. That is absolutely the mic drop of the episode. Yeah. And to further that point, we have a very special guest. I'm excited to have her back because she was on every single episode for the first year of the show. And then because she has now graduated and moved on to actually, working in her own field, she's not been able to be with us. So I want to recognize the newly graduated Masters of Counseling / Psychology as her minor, Miss Michaela McCord.
I love this so much.
Hi.
Hey, Michaela, congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you. It feels really weird. It's great. It's great. It also feels really weird.
Yeah, I want to say a new definition of you.
I'm still kind of mad that they didn't let Maslow walk with you.
Don't get me started. I'm going to write some letters, some strongly worded letters with me. For those of you who don't know, Maslow's my dog, the dog I use in my work.
Yes, in her work. I want to say that, like, he's relevant to her graduation.
Very
and
much
like they've been on the news together. They've been like, she's been to conferences because of her work with Maslow. So it's pretty cool. And I think it's nonsense that he didn't also get a little cap and gown. I just want to throw that out there.
Well,
but
a little bit graduation pictures of Maslow. I need you to understand that that's coming
good.
soon to
Good.
review.
He deserves them. Yes, he does. So I want to further what Andi just said. So Andi, I want you to repeat it one more time for anyone who missed it. And then I want Michaela to respond to that.
Let me try to look at the camera. I have a new camera, so I'm kind of getting used to it. So when you have an employee who misbehaves or behaves inappropriately and you do nothing about it, you have put your stamp of approval on that behavior.
Mm-hmm. Then that's where the job comes in as the leader. To step up and do something about it. Because if the leader, you're absolutely right. And that's actually something I was going to brush on. So when you said that earlier, I was 100% engaged. And I heard you say that. And I was like, I'm going to touch on that. Because leaders who put their stamp of approval on behaviors like that are, like you said, condoning it for the rest of the organization.
Right.
And just, this is something that's acceptable here. And
so tell us the psychology behind that, Michaela. Tell us, I mean, that's kind of your area of expertise, right? Is understanding.
Yes, I do. I do know. That's your psychology. Yes.
That's your study. That's your studies. Yes. So
you have the paper for it.
Yeah, you have the paper now. You're the expert. Don't discredit yourself.
It was delivered today, actually. I can go hold it up later.
There you go. But as somebody who has studied this and how the mind works, how does that affect other people in the workplace? How, in other words, so people hear, oh, it sends this message, and people go, well, why? Why, what is that? So what actually happens with people?
The first thing that struck me about it is that when you enter a new workplace, and I'm saying this as you, but just I think people in general, and correct me if I'm wrong in this experience, because it's certainly been mine. I know it's been other people, and from what I study, anyway, I'll digress. But when you enter a place of work, there's a culture to what you're entering. And you may even go in with a very fresh mindset of, okay, this is a new chapter of my life. This is somewhere I am starting, and it's a blank slate. We call that tabula rasa. And so yeah, blank slate. And then when you start adding in things like what y'all are talking about, this toxicity, that starts to become, you're starting to start right now on that blank slate, that this is acceptable here. This is what we can do. And so you're taking someone who you could have helped shape into a very down-to-earth, hardworking employee who helps other people potentially, to now someone who is creating perpetuating this toxic environment. At least that's what I would see with it.
Absolutely. And I want to throw out some examples here, very specific examples of what we mean by toxic people and toxic behavior. So if someone is being either directly or indirectly discriminatory towards anyone else, whether it's, I want to be real clear on this, okay? If you make a joke about a group of people, that's toxic, even if it's not to them, okay? So the person does not need to say it directly to them. If you talk about, guys, this one's at you, because I see it more with guys, although I've seen it with the ladies out there too. If you talk about someone's body, even if it's not to them, that's toxic. Don't do that.
You are not a personal trainer or a physician.
Oh yeah. Let me clarify that. Yeah.
At work.
Yeah. If you're like a nurse and you're talking about a patient, okay, fine.
No, not even then. Not even then. Don't talk about the body.
Right. Like those are
Don't talk about their attractiveness, at least.
Right, exactly. If you have to put an adjective with a body part, it's inappropriate. Like you can just go ahead and label
no adjectives. And the same thing for race, preference, anything else. Just anything. Just don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it. Also, if you're just a jerk, if you are going around yelling at people, okay, I'm gonna throw this on out there. There is not ever a reason to yell at somebody at work. It does not exist. Now I can understand if you're just excited talking about something, your voice might kind of elevate, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about yelling at them. So, there is never a reason to put somebody down.
I agree. And I want to piggyback on what you're saying here about raising our voices at work. So I come from a behavior background, so I'm bonding with Michaela here. But in the schools, we are taught to raise our voice to grab attention and bring it back down very quickly. So only in a crisis situation. So if somebody is heading towards an exit, to the building. So elementary school. So they're running. I might raise my voice to call their name or yell the word stop. And then I'm going to bring it back down because this is crisis management and you have to use it very strategically. Very rarely are you going to encounter a situation like this in the workplace. So it goes back into, if you are the manager, then what are you doing? So we go into compliance, right? Sometimes people raise their voice to try to bring somebody into compliance. We've got to work on the strategy here because we're looking for leadership, not dictatorship.
No, that's someone who's out of control. That's
exactly.
Right.
No. I completely agree with you.
I love, my husband says, and I'll pass it off to you, Michaela. My husband always tells this story about, to illustrate why you never need to yell, to show off your strength, of when he was in boot camp in the Navy. His, I don't know what you call it, but the guy who took care of it, like who was over them and all, I don't know what they're called. Sorry, this is not a good look for me. But anyway, the guy that, did all their drills with them and everything, he would come in the morning. And I want you to picture this, a room full of dozens upon dozens of men who got maybe 3 hours sleep after exercising for 21 hours straight. And he would go, wake up. That quiet. And everybody would shoot up and run. So you do not need to yell to get your point across. Just sort of put that out there. So Michaela, what were you going to say?
I'm actually glad you threw that in there. That's a good point. The thing that was on my mind is, we're talking about toxicity, and it's sort of occurring to me right now, what are we really saying when we say toxicity? If you think about something that's toxic, what are you really saying? I think the first thing in my mind is poisonous. I think about like a big vat of just, this is such a dorky reference, but that movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, don't talk about that scene. I used to cry over that scene.
Horrible. But anyway, when it spills over and it's like acidic and nasty, that's what I think about. Just something that's poisonous, that seeps into other things. And that's what we're really talking about when you talk about these employees and how it just carries over to everything. That's really what you're talking about. Like the toxicity touches one person and it's just sort of like a chain reaction. And
that's true.
Honestly, I don't think we're giving enough attention to the leadership in this conversation yet.
It's true.
Honestly, I have seen leaders make or break toxic environments. And Andi, I know you sort of you did brush on that earlier, and I just want to sort of bring the conversation back around to that, because that was honestly something that I hadn't even considered the employees yet, because I really put that in the hands of the leaders largely.
Right.
And I know of a lot of my friends right now work for this big company. I don't want to say the name of the company because it's a very popular one.
No.
And the site here is it's sort of seen an upturn in leadership, and the employees are leaving left and right because it is toxic. It's become a hugely toxic environment. So anyway, I just want to sort of throw that out there and get y'all's perspectives on that.
It's true. I had actually a client that, and again, not going to give names, obviously, and they had a COO that was horrible. I mean, just from start to finish, did everything toxic that we've mentioned here today. It was awful, from direct sexual harassment to indirect racial comments to being nasty and ugly to people, berating them in front of others, yelling, all of these things.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call, and it was, what do we do? What do we do? And I said, well, fire him. Why are you even asking me this? And the person who called was not the owner of the company, and said, I can't. I'm not allowed. And I was like, oh no. I said, well, then get ready, because you're about to get sued. So, that's how this is going to go. Like, and by the way, guys,
piggyback on that.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was thinking about that as Michaela was talking into what you're saying. Why do companies allow toxicity, right? And it goes back a lot of times to, what do you value most? A lot of times the people who are allowed to misbehave are high performers. They may have the most experience. They may be senior leaders. And there's this mindset that I can't do we can't succeed without you. So we actually put performance above culture or performance above integrity. So other toxic environments can be lack of integrity or dishonesty or backstabbing. And we allow bad behavior.
Yes, that's totally true. And I want to say real quick about that. So people always go, well, you know, I'm sorry, but my money comes first. This is a business. Well, let me help you out with that. Even if you don't understand how important it is to always have ethics and integrity, I'm not going to sit here. This show would be 48 hours long if I tried to explain to you everything wrong with that and reteach you that. But what I am going to teach you as business owner to business owner is why that's still stupid. And it's still not going to help your bottom line. And I'm going to use the word stupid because it needs to be used here. You are going to get sued into oblivion. Okay. You are going to lose your business, which I have watched happen to said client, by the way, and not even the first time I've seen that happen. I have also seen time and time again, and keep in mind, I consult, work with a lot of businesses. Andi, you've done the same. Other things happen too. Your clients start to figure stuff out. Word gets out around the industry about you. Everything starts to tank. No person is worth that. You can always replace a top performer. Trust me. Call Andi. She's got plenty of them in her database.
Well,
Call
and
me.
if you're a strong enough leader, build them.
Yes, and that too. Train. That's a whole other. We just had a whole episode about OJT. Go back and watch that one. Train your people up. But seriously, there is not a single person worth that. Not one. I will fire, and Michaela will testify to this. I will fire family. Not that I ever had to fire her, but I will. There is no.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
Did not have to fire her. She did not do anything stupid or toxic, but I will. And I have fired best friends. No, don't go there. Don't think that just because we have a relationship, you can mess with my business. That's not
your ethics are more, your ethics and integrity are where they should be as a leader.
Well, thank you. That's not where I was going with that.
It's really, I've just seen more and more. And I'm so disheartened by the amount of leaders out there who just don't seem to get the ethics and the integrity. I don't, especially for this, this big name company. I'm just like, how do you not care? And I was talking to my friends about this, and one of them said to me something very profound. They're like, it just makes business sense to not have a toxic environment. So why, in the name of God, are you having an environment that's toxic and you're allowing it to stay toxic? I'll get off my soapbox.
But let me throw this out there, okay, Katherine, because you mentioned that you're very comfortable having these difficult conversations. And I think part of the reason toxic environments exist is because even good people who want to see change may not know how to have these tough conversations.
That's true.
And influence change. So what advice can we as a panel give them, particularly you you're more comfortable with these conversations, to say, how could that conversation sound?
Okay. So I have two routes that I use. I'm just going to throw out what I do, and then Andi, I want to hear yours, and then Michaela, I want to hear your perspective on something very specific. So for me, it goes one of two ways. Okay. So first of all, everyone watching should know that one of my nicknames is the Terminator, just like my mother. It got handed down, and the person who gave it to me doesn't even know my mother. It's funny. And I am not afraid to fire people, like at all, just not afraid. One of my approaches is to walk in and say, what do you think you're doing? And just call them out. The reason is that you want them to understand how upset you are. And just sit down. You say it calmly. Don't yell at them. You sit down and you say, what do you think you're doing? And when they try to play dumb, because they will, you say, don't do that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And then you repeat to them what they did. And then you tell them why it's unacceptable and how that's going to hurt the business and how that's going to hurt their career and how that hurts the other people there. And then look at them and say, so now with all of that understood, I'm going to repeat my question. What do you think you're doing? And just wait. Because then what they're going to tell you is, do you need to fire them or can they be coached? Mm-hmm. If you see humility after that, you go, all right, so here's the thing. We're going to have an action plan. Here's what we're going to do to fix it. I'm all about working with you. Let's keep it going. I value you. Build them back up. You tore them down. Now build them back up and then keep going and follow up with that action plan. I'm gonna throw that out there. The other approach, or the other thing is they're going to tell you that you need to fire them, in which case you walk them out. That's it. It's that simple. The other approach, and sometimes you have to use this one, sometimes the first one's not an option, is you have to do the very soft investigation. You have to approach them, see what's going on. This is typically my preferred approach, unless it was just really egregious, because I like to find out why the person's behaving this way, because to me that matters. Maybe something happened to you. Maybe something's going on with you and there's some trauma. Like, is this common that this person acts like this? Is it new? Is it, find out what's going on. They might be going, I've told the story on the show before of one of my assistant managers one time, all of a sudden just started yelling at our staff. Had never done that before. And I mean, just rude. And I called him and I said, what's going on, man? How are you? Are things okay? Breaks down crying. His wife tried to kill herself.
Oh God.
And here he is at work trying to get through it. And I wish I sent him home, but you never know. And I typically like to start with that approach and just say, what's going on? Explain to me why this is happening. Michaela, what are your thoughts on the two approaches?
That you're an engaged leader, especially with that second one, that you know how to monitor your employees and respond to them. That was a reach. That in that second example, that you saw how that person was responding. Oh, wait a second. I'm not just going to react, because I'm sure you had your own emotional reactions to that of like, whoa, man, I'm sort of angry that you're acting like this. But you, as a leader, held that reaction and then approached your employee with professionalism and concern and said, oh, okay, I've collected myself. Now let me ask and see. So that's what really stuck out to me.
So you feel that would be one that would bond your employee more to you?
Oh yeah.
Is to just really reach out and see what's up.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Not that the first one was, I'm not saying anything about the first one that was like incorrect or anything at all, but just the second one struck me. I was like, oh yeah.
You usually, like I said, you usually want to go with the second one. The first one is more like somebody did something real egregious.
Like really crappy.
Really bad. Like just real bad. Like, you know better than this. Come on.
Yeah, the Terminator has that one under control. What about you?
Andi, what about you? What is your advice on that to start those conversations?
I would tell you, the hardest conversations for me to have are ones with underperforming employees, right?
Yeah, that's hard.
And so, because nobody wants to hurt their feelings. And I go back to, I was coaching a job seeker, and they said something that will stay with me forever. He had moved to the US from France, and I was asking him, what's the biggest difference in managing employees here in the US? And he said, well, in France, if you're doing a bad job, I tell you you're doing a bad job and you apologize. Here, I have to apologize to you because you're doing a bad job. And I thought that was the best. I was like, I feel your pain here. And so I just thought that was the best explanation, because
that's hilarious.
We do have this culture of trying to make everybody feel great and be your authentic self. And if your authentic self is rude, I need you to not be your authentic self. I need you to work on yourself.
Like, I'm real rough.
Yes.
Yeah, like Michaela will tell you, I am mean as hell in real life. I really am. I am not sweet.
I will not tell you that.
I'm not sweet though. Nobody would ever in their right mind call me sweet. But when you're a manager, you have to be different. To your point, Andi, you do. But you also have to play to your strengths. So let's say you're a manager and owner and you are just not okay with confrontation.
Right.
Okay. First of all, don't be a manager. If you're afraid of confrontation, don't do that. Be a lead, be a trainer. You can even be a business owner. That's okay. But if you're an executive or a manager and you're afraid of confrontation, you're in the wrong job. But hand it off to HR. These are people who are trained to deal with this. It's their whole job.
Right.
That is their whole job. Hand it off to HR. Go. And
I would say if you are in a leadership role and you don't want to just quit because you identify that you're not great at conflict, get a coach. Start working with a counselor. Start working with someone to identify what is it that's making you so afraid of conflict, to address this person that is underperforming or causing a culture shift in your organization. So I would say when we're talking about firing jerks, it's anybody who their behavior is transforming your organizational or departmental culture. So if they're doing something that is so extreme that is negatively influencing the entire department or organization, you owe it to them and the rest of your employees to have that conversation.
Yes.
And Dave Ramsey and Craig Rochelle on the Leadership Podcast were talking about honesty is kindness when it comes to employee management. And that when you have those conversations, like letting somebody go and just underperform is not kind. And that for me was like my wake up call of going, okay, holding their hand and always trying to figure out, okay, what could I have I internalize it. Okay. Could I have trained them better? Could I have done this? And so instead of taking ownership of that, having those honest, fearless feedback conversations is kind. And even though it's uncomfortable, it's kind.
That's right. Well, and just be respectful.
And the employee's reaction, well, really any person in life, whether you were honest to, their reaction is on them. Their reaction has a lot more to do with them than it does with you. And again, Andi, you talked about our culture earlier, and in our culture, that's not what we tend to respond with, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to give you some bad news. I have to be honest with you. I'm so sorry, I have to be honest with you. But and I'm very much like that. I'm sitting here being silly, you guys, but please understand, I am so much like that.
It's true.
I'm like, there's this meme, like, if you ever need help with something, it's like, oh, could you please help me with this? If not, you can run me over with your car. That's fine too.
It's fine.
It's okay. I'll just be a pancake on the road. Don't worry about me.
Exactly. Or a starfish.
Sorry.
But yeah, no, but no, that's in all honesty, and I digress again, but it's, it's all you can do is be honest as a leader, and your employee is going to do what they're going to do. But your integrity and your ethics as a leader is to be honest and watch out for your company's culture.
Right.
100%. And one of the things that just slays me is when somebody thinks that there is any, like we were saying earlier, thinks that there's anything above that, anything at all. There is nothing above your ethics and integrity. Nothing at all. And believe me, I'm going to put this on out there. I fired my biggest client. I lost over $100,000 a year in my personal pocket. That means after I paid the expenses, employees and all that, to get rid of someone that did not line up with my ethics and integrity. So and you know what? My business rebuilt and I'm fine. I'm fine. Right. You're going to be okay. I'm telling that to not say yay, maybe, to tell you it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You will be okay. Good karma or God or whatever you believe in will look out for you. Your network will look out for you. But when it comes to that jerk, and I'm going to talk real quick about these people out there that are the overt jerks, the overt ones that just say nasty stuff, do nasty stuff. Fire them and fire them publicly is my advice. I literally one time walked out onto a floor, heard a very nasty racial comment said from one employee to another, turned around, and it was right after I walked past, turned around, looked at the person who said it and said, get your stuff and get out. Right there in front of everybody. Didn't pause because there was no interpretation. There was no reason to investigate. It was so egregious and so nasty what was said. You got to go. And you know what everybody else learned? You know what happened? I had 2 different employees come tell me thank you because the last manager let that slide.
When you encounter something that is that
bad,
unsettling and concerning, and this is where, going back to the monetary exchange, I would say, what is your integrity for sale for, right? And you weren't willing to sell your integrity for $500,000.
But a lot of people do.
A lot of people do.
Unfortunately.
A lot of people do. And shame on them. You should not, it's like being a parent, right? It's not just you anymore. It's everybody under you that you have to take care of. And if you're a parent, it's your children. If you have pets, it's your pets. And yes, animal lives matter. They're awesome. And
it's your employees.
Yeah. And if you're a leader, it's your employees, and you have to look out for them, period. you have to look out for them. And if something is hurting them, if something is causing a problem, gots to go.
Right.
Gots to go. So Michaela, thank you so very much for joining us.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you for being back on again. We've missed you.
I know.
And
It
we'll
was
see
fun,
you
you
soon.
guys. I missed it too. Bye.
See you later. And we get to bring on our next guest,
Woohoo.
who is Norm Williams. He is super. He's actually on last week's episode. I liked him so much. I made him come back again.
Amazing.
I did. So we're going to go ahead and bring him on. He has a really cool job. I'm going to let him tell us about it real fast.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Norm, how are you?
Hello. Let me get centered here. In my
You're good.
frame.
You're good. So tell us real quick what it is that you do for a living.
I am the executive VP of OJT.com, and we're a online training provider and the nation's largest on-the-job training resource.
All right. We have someone who's giving us a little bit of harassment, but I will put we have one of our viewers saying nice eyes, Norm.
Thank you.
So there you go. Compliment
Thanks,
for you.
Pops.
Thank you,
You can thank
Crystal.
my dad for that.
Wait. I just want to point out, we just talked about how we don't talk about descriptive and body parts.
Listen, Andi, I was waiting. I was going to see if someone was going to bring that up. You guys had a good segment.
Yes,
by the way. That was really good.
but I do want to point out she's not a client of yours. She's not a coworker of yours. She's not your manager. So I think we're safe. This is just a human being.
Fair point.
But it was just an example.
Appreciate
It's an example, right? Just an example of if it happened in the workplace.
Yes.
Right.
That would be no. That would be a no.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I'm good at that.
Okay.
Have we created a culture where we cannot pay genuine compliments to people?
Compliments?
Yeah, but where we can't pay genuine compliments to people like, hey, I really like your eyes, or great sweater, or whatever. Have we created that culture, or is it situational? Because my take on it as a leader is actually it's not up to you how you intended it. It's up to Norm how he accepted it.
Ooh. All right. What are your thoughts, Norm? I'm going to let you take this one first.
And the thing is, you can't determine or dictate how someone accepts or receives the words that you say, right?
Right.
So all you can do is deliver whatever you're saying, which is kind of like SOP, respectfully.
Right.
Just deliver respectfully. Like there's a respectful way to compliment someone. Right.
Yes.
There's a disrespectful way, and there's a way to try to be slick with innuendo, right? But if it's just a genuine, hey, that's a beautiful dress, or these glasses really compliment your face. Like that's a genuine compliment. People who doesn't want to get a genuine compliment? But there's a line.
I want to say that because you used an example that I actually tell a lot of my clients to be very careful about, and that's the clothing. Because a lot of times what somebody is actually saying to you is, I feel attracted to you in that outfit. And especially as a woman, do guys get that too? Do women do that to you guys too?
So I think it's different to say, I like your dress versus you look good in that dress. There's two very different connotations with that.
I would agree with the actual words, but let me tell you how I actually heard this said to a woman once. Hey, I like that dress on you.
Right, but that's creepy anyway.
But that's innuendo.
I'm sorry, I said the wrong one. I said it was just the hey, I like that dress. Oh. So what I tell people is watch your face.
Right.
Watch your body
eyes.
Language. Watch your eyeballs. Look into the eyeballs. If you're going to compliment somebody, eyeballs, don't look down here. Look. Ladies and guys, because ladies were bad about that too.
Don't lie. I've been dressed down my fair share.
Yes.
So it's not just.
Yes. I had one poor guy that I worked on a recruiting floor with 20 some odd women, and there were two guys in the department. Two. And one of them apparently was very good looking and had a lot of, how do I say it? Strong gazes on him every day when he walked in. And there were some definite inappropriate comments made toward him.
Okay. So circle back to what we were talking about before about the culture that we've kind of created here in the US about if a woman complains about sexual harassment, she's a victim. And if a guy complains about sexual harassment, then it's almost like his manhood in question in the
Which
culture.
Is nonsense.
Exactly. So we have to do better, again, with the toxic environments of creating a safe place where everybody should have a voice to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable. I'm here to do a job. You're here to do a job. Let's keep this appropriate. And what I teach my son and my employees of, we don't fish from the company pond. Don't hit on people at work.
Oh, well, that too. Yeah, don't. That causes all the problems. Do not do.
I'm the wrong one to have on that topic. I actually met and married my wife at work.
Well, sometimes you can't help it.
It happens. But
don't. Oh my gosh, how did
that was pre-2021 cancel culture. I'm just going to put that out.
Oh no, don't do it. Oh, I know what a friend of mine said. A friend of mine said, "Don't do the catch and release at work. Don't do that. You know where you just catch and release, catch, release, catch, like it's like in fishing. Don't do that at work. That's not good. That's not who you are."
Well, I think that also ties into your company policy, right? Because at the company that I worked at, you know, you were moved to different offices. Like you can't date, but you can't date and work in the same office together.
Right.
So
that's fair.
Right. And so if you're going to date, cool, be honest about it. We're not going to fire you, but one of you just has to move to a different office.
Right. And I think, and we're cracking Crystal up. Glad to know that we're a pretty goofy bunch, but I tell you what, it really is serious. People, there are these stereotypes that you should, it's okay for this group to be upset about this, but not this group. And some people are, I'm just going to put it out there. Some people are just too dang sensitive. It is true. I have had women claim that something was sexual harassment, and I had them repeat the story to me 5 times because I never heard it. Legitimately, this actually happened multiple times to me. And so, and the same thing with, oh, so-and-so is being rude to me. Okay, tell me the story. And I never caught it. And so to your point, Andi, a lot of it's perception, right? It's just perception. So what I tell people is follow the very basic guidelines of make sure everything that is actually coming out of your mouth, in other words, the actual words are within professional guidelines. Look people in the eye when you are giving them a compliment. We talked about that, right? Watch your tone. And then after that, if there's a misunderstanding, just address it. Because if what you actually said wasn't gross, I don't consider that toxic. That's just a misunderstanding.
Right.
Yep.
It becomes toxic when we let it go and we don't have tough conversations like what we were talking about. And with that fearless feedback to say, hey, here's what you said. Here's what I heard. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go Brene Brown on this one. The story I'm telling myself is,
the story I
love it.
Yes.
I like that.
I love
like,
that's cool.
What when you say that, what I'm hearing is, but we're so scared, and we're more likely to go to HR than have a direct conversation with somebody who offended us. But if you will create a no negativity space in your life where you're not listening to gossip, you're not creating drama, but you're having conversations with the goal of resolution. So communicating to be understood, not just to be heard, then the outcome is much, much better.
And I want to hit on that. You communicating to be understood, not just heard. And that's very important. That's very, very important. And I always tell people, stand up for yourself too. Don't run to HR or your manager with every little thing. Don't be a tattletale. Just go to them if it's serious, if it repeats, if the person doesn't respect you when you bring it up. But just turn around and go, hey, just so you know, that kind of, I apologize. I'm sure that's not how you meant it, but it just kind of hit me wrong. Or, or I'm sorry you probably didn't know, but that's racially offensive, or that's offensive to, to my gender preference, or whatever. And just let people know, especially if it's something where it's kind of a gray area and like it might offend some people and not other people. And it's like, for instance, I'm from the South. You are too, Andi. We say like hun to everybody. So, but in the North, that's horribly offensive to a lot of people and they don't like it. Is there anything like that where you are, Norm?
Not that I know of. I'm a pretty casual guy, so,
Yeah, I'm hard to offend. So it is hard for me sometimes to relate to people that have been through some things that have made them a little bit more susceptible to things that hurt them. And I try to remember that it's not just that somebody's so sensitive. A lot of times there's something that made them that way. And so you have to kind of, work with that. It's all just about understanding people. Really, it just getting to know them, right?
I think something you said there too was when you were modeling the conversation of you probably didn't know this, but so you're assuming the best. You're assuming that it's an educational problem, not just that somebody's naturally a jerk. And so you're kind of approaching it from, hey, so I'll use this example, being from the South. The word country bumpkin goes all over me because growing up, I had two sets of grandparents. I had grandparents that were from the city and grandparents who lived on a 49-acre farm. And I heard negative comments from one side of the family about the other. And that word, it triggers that emotional response of that anger that I felt as a child of defending my grandparents that I dearly loved. So for me, it takes me back to that emotional response.
Right.
Where somebody may think that they're being funny, but in the words of my grandmother, I'm not in the mood for your funny. Like, I'm not having it.
I'm not in the mood.
Right. We're not having it. That's not what we're doing. And so having that conversation of, hey, you probably didn't know, and I know that I probably took that in a way that you didn't intend. But if we could just have a mutual agreement that this word's off the table.
Yeah. To me. Don't say that to me. Thank you so very much.
See, that's a very PC way of handling it, Andi.
Yeah.
That's a very PC way, right? That's really good for people who are not confrontational. Right. Because that whole response is about trying to avoid the confrontation.
Right.
And ideally the person who's receiving that is receptive to that.
Yeah. And most times, in my experience, at least, most people are, especially in a professional setting.
Right.
Most people go, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. My apologies." And especially if you are comfortable explaining why it's offensive to you, that helps. That really, really helps.
And my goal is to address it then, because I don't want to have to go to level 2. We can go there if we need to, but if we can handle it on this level 1, I would really appreciate
Let me tell you guys,
that.
you don't want to see Andi go to that next level. Don't do it. Next level like Andi is not something anybody needs to see. So same here. I tell people you kind of get that one warning, and then after that, it's Muhammad Ali. So just don't do it.
I usually summarize it by this. I worked on the behavior teams at the high school. I'm going to leave that there. Like, if we need to go there, we can go there.
Yeah, but just not gonna.
But I would rather we didn't. So
what about the training? So this is one thing that kills me too. So all these companies are like, oh, we're going to have, anti-toxicity training. We're going to watch this video for 2 hours. Or we're going to have anti-sexual harassment training. Okay, now this one really got me, by the way. People need to be careful how they name things, because I once saw a training in a workplace that said sexual harassment training. And I was going,
I'll call it that, yeah.
I was like, but that sounds like you're telling people how to do it. Don't be ambiguous with this.
Just in case you didn't know how.
Yeah, in case you didn't know how. This is how you do it right, guys. This is how you do it. I don't mean guys like men, but just in general. So first of all, do not ambiguously name your trainings, just in general. That never is good. But when it comes to training, Norm, because this is kind of your thing. I mean, to me, I think those trainings are stupid. I'm using that word again, because sometimes it just applies. They don't work in my experience, and people zone out, they fall asleep, all of that. So first of all, in your experience, is that true? And second of all, what kind of training would you set up just in general in the workplace? Or is there a training needed to fix some of these issues?
I think what you're saying, it can be applied to just training in general, right? That you receive at work. It's just kind of like, check the box, go through the motions. Oh, I got to go get this training. Even the supervisors, the people who are supposed to hold you accountable. Oh, we just got to go, guys. We got to just take this training today, right? Just make sure you get it up on this day. I don't want to get a call from my boss about you guys not taking the training, right? That's pretty much what it is, right?
And it's not good.
And it's not good. And I think
know that boss.
Right. I've had that boss.
We've all had that boss.
I think I might have been that boss before. Right.
Oh, no.
But it starts at the top, right? It starts at the top. It's about your culture. But if your culture is one built around open, honest feedback in the moment, right, where your leaders, right, hold themselves accountable, right, to the training, to hold their teams accountable, right? If this isn't something that's important to your company culture, your company leaders should be holding their teams accountable to not only just receiving the training, but actually practicing it on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
And when they do hear someone stepping outside of what the company culture is and on any level, that's when you need to have open and honest feedback and coaching in the moment. And then for those repeat offenders, that's when they go on a performance plan. It's not about your number, about your performance in within our organization. So if we need to reel you back in because you got a sassy little mouth, then that's what we need to do, right? It doesn't matter.
Now, wait a minute. Whoa. I have a sassy little mouth. I do not want to be reined in.
Which is when you own your own company.
Exactly.
Oh, no, I have to watch it even more now. I don't want to get sued.
Right. I love what you're saying here, Norm, because
it's true. Yeah. In all sincerity.
Yes. And essentially what I'm hearing is I shouldn't have to train you. Like a video is not going to make you stop being a jerk, right? It's just not. Nope. It's like those signs that say, if you steal, we're going to call the police, right? It's not like I'm going to look at it and go, I was going to steal this, but I saw the sign. I didn't realize this wasn't okay.
We're serious about this, huh?
Right. Oh, man. Now that there's a sign.
Oh, darn. Yeah.
So it's not like somebody is going to be this really horrible person. And then they're like, but I saw this one required video and Susie told John that she was sorry. So I should start apologizing in my life. Like that's nobody has had an epiphany from these mandatory videos. It's like a checkbox for the company to say, hey, if you're being toxic, we have this for ground so you can't sue us. Right. Yes.
It's fluff. It's fluff. And we don't want fluff. We want real substance. Right. Really work with people. Either fire them because what they did is so egregious, which is fine, or work with them, train them, teach them, have an ongoing, intentional plan. Be intentional about it. Don't just wing your way through it. Come up with a plan, have follow-ups, and be intentional.
And right, that's going into the second point, right? Your second thing, what type of training? This is where you need to have, if it's a hot topic, something that's important to your organization, you don't just need to have one training on it. Right. This needs to be something that you revisit once a month in your LMS. Right. And it's not just go watch this video. Hey guys, this month it's this, right? This month we're actually you're going to be put into a few augmented reality scenarios where you have to react or respond. It's not just going to sit there and watch a video, or now you have to take it. This month is just a quiz on everything you've learned in the past 3 months of training on this topic. Oh, snap. Now people are like, wait, they're serious about this. Like they're gonna dock my pay if I don't get an X amount of score and I'm gonna have to redo the training. Right. Or whatever. There's the consequences now. I don't know if they can legally.
No, they can't do that. But
I'd be kind of.
But there will be consequences.
It would change the world, though.
It would.
It's like professional grounding.
Yeah, and you know what? I have heard people propose the idea that if it's a certain type of egregious act, not just for kind of the run of the mill, maybe it was offensive, maybe not, but like for just the egregious things, and they would have to be specifically listed out, that if someone is found to have done that in the workplace, that they should be able to have their pay docked.
It's like a fine.
I think you should.
It's a fine, right? For if you break your contract, you get fired. They just fine you. And let's
NFL, it's like we do it for athletes.
Yeah, so why not? Yeah. Why not? I don't see the problem there, because you're causing problems in the workplace. I'm just going to throw that out there, America, that I actually would be in huge support of that, because there are sometimes those actions could cost the company money. They could cost somebody else's job because they get to the point that they're not feeling good, which brings me back to the point that you are going to lose more people by keeping one crummy person than you would if you just let them go. It's one or basically everybody. It's kind of what it comes out to, because you're going to have a lot of turnover if you don't get rid of that person, especially if they're in leadership. You have to just let them go. And if you're scared to do it, call me. That's a service I offer. I will terminate them for you very gladly.
People pay to have that happen?
Yeah. What? Yeah, I have clients that they don't want to fire people, or they're afraid they won't do it properly, because there are certain bases, especially in certain states, there are certain ways you have to do it. Oh yeah, I get called just to fire people.
I can see that.
I love this. I love that you do this.
I do, and I enjoy it. Is kind of the sick thing. not layoff. I want to clarify that. Yes. Go ahead.
Thought about it, right? Just going back to this whole being able to find employee theory, right? I'm loving this more and more I think about it, right? So if you can find an employee, I'm looking at, okay, if I'm an employee and I get fined and I'm not really invested in the company, I'm like, whatever, I'm not going to pay this fine. I'm just going to quit. Cool. Then you just quit. You don't get unemployment, buddy. We're good.
Yeah. Right? We're done with you.
We're done. Like, you saved me the trouble. So I'm liking this fining thing more and more.
It's a good idea, right? And then on the flip side, have bonuses for people that go X amount of time and get praises or don't have a problem.
Or act like adults.
Yeah, act like adults. Here's your adulting bonus. I don't know if you should get a bonus just for being an adult, but maybe if you get kudos and like you are known for helping people resolve problems, or you go the extra mile, get bonuses for that.
I'm liking the adulting bonus. I'm on board with this.
Sign me up for that. As a matter of fact, can I get?
Like finally, seriously, it's so few employees that actually get that. I swear. Like, they could actually get the adulting bonus.
But don't you think it'd be a motivation, like a carrot, to get more people to do it, right? Like,
act right, and here's what you get.
Okay, so I'm all about trying to pose the tough questions.
Yes.
If you offered an adulting bonus to your leadership team, would they get it? And if they wouldn't, then you've identified why your company culture can't shift.
Ooh, that's a good one. Ooh. Another mic drop from
Andi. Leave that there. I'm going to leave it there. Let it marinate.
I like it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any business owner just needs to hear that. I'm going to have a clip made of just that.
I love it.
Because seriously, people, that's how you need to think about it. Does this person need to go? And just think about that. If I was giving an adulting bonus just for basic, just acting like a professional adult human being, would my leadership team get it? If there is any pause, they don't need to be there anymore.
Right.
Even if you just have to think about it for a minute, they don't need to be there. That's not who you don't have the right people in leadership.
I think as leaders, if we don't take the time, at least I would say monthly, I usually do it weekly, of saying, am I the best person for my organization, or do I need to change? Right? Yeah. If we do not have that honest conversation with ourselves, how are we going to have that honest conversation with anybody else and say, am I modeling the behavior that I'm expecting others to follow?
Right. Right. I like that. I do an actual performance review with myself. I know this is so dorky, but I do. And I do it on the basic skills, and then I do it on the emotional stuff. And I do because you constantly have to learn. Right? You constantly have to adjust and change how you do things. And I think that's important. And that type of feedback would be very important in any organization, whether you're a little tiny company, and just a few people, or whether you have tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of employees. That's so very important to constantly have that accountability. Right. Yep. And I want to say this too. If you're the jerk in a company, you know it. I just want to throw that out there. People always try to act like they were so surprised that they got fired for their bad behavior. You knew you were a jerk. Come on. I
think people are sometimes so trapped in this victim mentality that everything is happening to them that they can't see how, and a lot of times with manipulative behavior or drama, they are so blinded, everything is happening to them and not, hey, I need to own this and say that I created this environment. I didn't have the tough conversation. I didn't make the moves I needed to do, and take ownership of that. But we don't exactly embrace that as a society.
That I think really what that speaks to is that's just a symptom of a lack of emotional intelligence. And I think that in the modern workplace now, you have to have a certain degree of emotional intelligence or you're not going to fit any company's culture.
Right.
That's true.
I agree.
Right. And that's in every industry. I mean, right. Like I work in construction as well. So it's even in construction, it's not the construction industry of the 90s, right? It's definitely not the construction industry of the 70s. So, so it's just if you don't have a certain level of emotional intelligence, there's no room, but you're going to cost a company money if you don't have a certain level of emotional intelligence.
100%.
I think that's a brilliant point. And I know there's been a lot of trainings lately on EQ. And again, we go back to this kind of society of be your authentic self, just be who you are. But at the same time, you have to be able to earn your place well with others badge, right? You have to be able to get along with humans and communicate in a way that your message is heard and understood. And these are all components of that emotional intelligence, being aware of yourself. How do you come across? And this little manipulative things. And sometimes we do it in the name of success, do it in the name of trying to climb the corporate ladder. But it goes back to what we talked about of selling your integrity for the price of an annual salary.
It's
true. You know, what is that worth to you? I personally would rather have less and sleep better because I know that inside I'm a good person than say, you know what, I climbed the ladder, but I stepped on everybody to get there.
100%. I could not agree with you more. I tell people that all the time. There's just no amount of money that's worth integrity or ethics to me. Just none. Just absolutely none. And I think to your point about the societal aspects to this and even to the emotional intelligence, because you're absolutely right, Norm. Emotional intelligence is just required. It really is. I mean, there's just very little that you can do without it these days. There has to be an understanding in people's minds, because I hear a lot of this. Well, I'm just going to be me. I live in America. I'm free. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let me help you out with something. Okay. Free does not mean you get to be an a-hole without consequences. You are free to do whatever, but you might have a consequence for that. Just like if you steal something, you're going to go to jail.
You're free to do whatever. It doesn't mean you're going to do whatever here.
Right. And it doesn't mean you're going to do it in our company. That's not what that means.
Right.
And you.
I lost her. Did you lose her?
I thought that was me. I was like, oh,
I know. Do you ever do that? Like when somebody freezes and I like move to see if it was them or me?
Yeah, I know. Me too. I'm like, what's happening? So I would say, like, you have to, like, the societal contract is like, you have to consider other people. That's the whole thing. That we all are together. We're symbiotic. We affect each other. You can't just go do whatever in the world you feel like and think it doesn't affect people.
That societal contract is not spoken about enough. I think
100%. Yes. This is the agreement. You have to, because if you're going to live in society and not in the boonies and be a hermit, then you have to think about other human beings. That is just how it works. Now, sometimes you're going to mess up. Sometimes you're going to say something that you shouldn't, or you're going to do something that maybe was a little offensive. Accept that. Learn from it. Keep on marching. I've done it.
Right.
I've done it. I have said things to people that I did not realize was racist. Went, whoops. I am so sorry. This was a long time ago, but it's like, I am so sorry.
Right.
Learn from that. Keep on trucking. It happens to everyone, but you do not get to say, well, this is just me. Let me tell you, I said everything that came into my head, I would have no friends. If I said everything that came into my head, everybody would like lock me up and throw away the key. There would be nothing good happening. You have to filter yourself. And think about other people.
Out of everything that happened in 2020, the one good thing that came out was defining things like I'm not racist versus I'm anti-racist, right? And forming not just tolerance, but alliances and standing up for human rights on a whole new level. That's what I hope we continue moving forward. And it goes back hand in hand with this work environment of not just, I'm not going to offend anybody, but I'm now an advocate that we're going to transform culture into this inclusive, diverse, equitable environment for all parties.
Yes.
And I just think like a big thing on that is not everyone has to be this big champion of diversity and inclusion, right? But you don't have to go be an advocate of change, but you have to be open. Right. You have to be open, right? Like you just have to be open. No one's asking you to go out and, become the crusader for diversity and inclusion. But it feels like that sometimes, right? I mean, it feels like that when it's presented, but I just don't feel like people define enough about what it looks like as being, an advocate versus being an ally versus being someone who's open to change.
Right.
No, I think there's so many levels to that.
100%.
Yeah,
and I want to say real quick, and that was wonderful, Norm. That's another one I'm going to have a little clip made of, because that's so true. It's okay if maybe this makes you uncomfortable or that makes you uncomfortable. You still don't get to be a jerk to people. That's the thing. I've heard people in the workplace, by the way, say, well, I don't agree with their lifestyle, so I could just say whatever I want to say. No, that is not how that works. And if someone is not directly hurting other human beings, shut up. At least
not
at work.
for you to have an opinion about.
At least at work. I mean, if you want to say whatever behind closed doors, knock yourself out.
Don't talk with your spouse, whatever you want to say. And
yes, talk to your dog about it. Have a whole conversation. Do not bring that stuff to work. If they are not directly hurting other human beings and or hindering your ability to do your job directly, not just because you're thinking about who they date or whatever, drop it.
Right.
Who cares? You don't get to have an opinion about that at work. Not the place for that. And with that, I want to thank you both so very much for joining us. Any last words from you, Andi?
Nope. I think this was great. It's a conversation that needs to be had and continued. So I appreciate always getting to come and chat with you.
Thank you.
Love what you're doing.
Thank you. I thank you so much for coming, Andi. You know you're one of my favorites. I always got to call you when I have some, but then when people just need to be brutally honest. And what about you, Norm? Any final words from you?
I just think, the kind of the theme of the two shows that I've been on is just kind of leadership needs to continue to provide open and honest feedback and coaching in the moment. If you want your culture, your organization to change, to be better, that's what you need.
That's right. 100%. Nice. And I want to remind everybody to please connect with these guys. They are wonderful, incredible human beings. They will message you back on LinkedIn. Go find them. They're both pretty darn easy to find. Come find me on LinkedIn. If you're not watching it on there already, I am here to help you and to help you in any way I can. If you need to fire that jerk who's too toxic in your workplace, reach on out to me. I got you. And with that, see you.